Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. So let us continue with the male reproductive system. So in this particular video we shall consider the semen and the penis. So let us talk about the semen. Now what is semen? Semen, it is the mixture of sperm as well as the seminal fluids. Okay, semen means seed. Okay, so we have seen that the male gonads, they produce the male gametes, that is the sperm, which is carried through the several duct system towards the exterior, but the actual medium which is responsible for this transportation of the sperms, in the meantime as they are transported, the maturation of the sperm, so all these processes as they take place, the sperm, they travel through some duct systems as we have seen, right? So as it travels, there should be something which should act as a transportation medium for the sperm, right? So it's the seminal fluid which aids in the transportation and in the meantime the maturation of the sperms. So the seminal fluid, it comprises of the liquid that consists of the secretions from the seminiferous tubules. We have seen that the Sertoli cells, one of their function is to secrete the fluid through which the sperms are pushed into the further duct system, right, of the testes. Okay, from there it will enter into the epididymis, from where it will move into the vas deferens and then into ejaculatory ducts and then into the urethra. So in the meantime, even the accessory sex glands, that is the seminal vesicles, prostate and the bulbourethral glands, these also secrete some fluid which will aid in the movement of the sperm, and also it will provide the appropriate environment. That's very important because the sperms are transported through the urethra, right? In urethra, it is a common path for the passage of urine as well, which is acidic in nature, right? So the secretions from these accessory sex glands, they are actually protective in nature, that is, they provide an alkaline medium for the survival of the sperm, otherwise they will get destroyed by the acidic environment, right? So this seminal fluid, it's the mixture of the secretions from the seminiferous tubules, seminal vesicles, prostate and the bulbourethral glands. Okay, and the volume of semen during a typical ejaculation, where it is ejaculated out of the body towards the exterior, the typical volume is 2.5 to 5 ml. And each ml of this semen, it contains round about 50 to 150 million sperms. Okay, so it's very important to maintain such high level of sperms, because if the number falls below 20 million per ml, then it is said that the male is likely to be infertile, that is, the male will not have the capability to fertilize the secondary oocyte, okay, or the ovum, and the formation of the zygote will not take place. Okay, so reproduction, the process of reproduction may get affected. Okay, so it's very important that a very high number of sperms be present in the semen, that is in millions. Okay, so we have seen in the process of spermatogenesis as well that millions of sperms are formed per day, right? Because now why this high level is required? That's because the fertilization, it usually takes place in the female reproductive tract, and that too in the uterine tubes. Okay, so the sperms has to reach the fallopian tubes for it to fertilize the secondary oocyte. Okay, so a large number of sperm needs to be present in the semen which are deposited in the female reproductive tract. Okay, now coming to the composition of the semen. So already we have seen the composition of all the 3 accessory sex glands, right? So we have seen that the prostate gland, it produces the prostatic fluid, so it is slightly acidic in nature. Okay, but still the semen, it is slightly alkaline in nature, that is the pH is 7.2 to 7.7. Now why it is alkaline? That's because the secretion from the seminal vesicles, it has alkaline pH, right, and a larger volume of fluid is contributed from the seminal vesicles, right, we have seen in the accessory sex glands. Okay, then the prostatic secretions, it gives the semen slightly milky appearance. Okay, and the fluids from the seminal vesicles and the bulbourethral glands, it give it slightly sticky consistency. Okay, so composition we shall not repeat because it will be the same as the secretions of all the 3 accessory sex glands, which we have already covered in the earlier lecture. Okay, now the functions of the seminal fluid, as I have already discussed earlier, it acts as the transportation medium, it provides the nutrients to the sperm, and it also protects it from the hostile acidic environment of the male's urethra as well as female's vagina. So that's very important. Okay, because of its alkaline nature, the semen is slightly alkaline in nature, right, so it protects it from the acidic environment, otherwise it might get killed due to the acidic environment. Okay, now once ejaculated out of the body, this liquid semen, it coagulates within the 5 minutes. Now what is the reason for the coagulation? Remember the composition of the secretions from the seminal vesicles? Yes, it contains the clotting proteins which are different from those which are present in the blood, right, but these are the proteins which are responsible for the coagulation of the semen. Okay. Now the functional role of this coagulation is not very well understood, okay, but after the coagulation has taken place, around about 10 to 20 minutes later, the semen reliquefies. It gets converted into the liquid form again. Now that's because of the prostate specific antigen and the other proteolytic enzymes. Remember the composition of the prostate, there are some proteolytic enzymes which will result in the breakdown of this clotting proteins, and that's how the clot is broken down and it will result in reliquefaction of the semen. Okay, now if there is any abnormal or delayed liquefaction, it might result in complete or partial immobilization of the sperms. Okay, so it's necessary for the reliquefaction of the semen to take place. Now, after the sperms are released into the female reproductive tract, they have to pass through the uterus and they have to reach the uterine tubes for them to fertilize the secondary oocyte, right? It fuses with the female gamete to form the zygote, right? So as these sperm, they pass through the female reproductive tract, okay, there are certain secretions from the uterine tubes which are responsible for a process called as capacitation. So this gives the sperms enhanced motility, it will increase the motility and it makes it possible for the sperm to fuse with the secondary oocyte for the fertilization to take place. So we will discuss this particular process in the female reproductive system, okay, this particular process of capacitation. Okay. Now sometimes in the semen which is ejaculated, there may be presence of a small amount of blood, and this condition is known as hemospermia. Hemo means blood and sperma means seed. Okay, so there may be presence of blood. So this may be due to the inflammation of the blood vessels which are lining the seminal vesicles, and it can be treated by the antibiotics. So this to do with the semen. Let's move on to the next part, that is the penis, which is the supporting structure of the male reproductive system. The word penis means tail. Now this is the supporting structure through which the urethra passes, right? We have seen that the spongy urethra is the one which passes through the penis, right? It is known as spongy urethra or the penile urethra. Okay, so this particular part, penis, it acts as the passageway for the ejaculation of the semen, the process by which the semen is ejaculated out of the body, and it is also the part through which the excretion of the urine will take place, because the urethra, it is the common terminal portion of both these systems, right? The urinary system as well as the reproductive system. Okay, now this particular structure, penis, it is cylindrical in shape. As you can see, it's cylindrical in shape, and it consists of three parts. That is a body of penis. Okay, that is this portion, this particular portion is the body of penis. Then the glans penis, that is this portion. Okay, and the third part is a root, okay, which comprises of this particular part. Okay, root of penis. Now let us consider one by one all the three parts. Okay, so the body of the penis, it comprises of actually the three cylindrical masses of tissue. As we can see over here, there are three cylindrical masses of tissue. Now this particular picture, it is actually a frontal section to show the internal details of the penis. So as you can see that this is one cylindrical mass, this is the second cylindrical mass, and this is the third one which is actually enclosing the urethra, through which the urethra is passed. Okay, so the urethra is exposed over here to show the internal details. Now let us have a look at the transverse section. Okay, so as you can see that there are three masses of tissues, right? This is the one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. Okay, now each of this mass of tissue, it is surrounded by a layer of fibrous tissue which is known as tunica albuginea. As you can see, this layer, tunica albuginea of the corpora cavernosa. Okay, that is one of the cylindrical mass. Okay, as you can see that these two are identical. Okay, this one and this one, these two are identical, and this is the third one. Okay, so there is the tunica albuginea of this particular portion as well, okay, which is surrounding the third cylindrical mass. Okay, now let us see what are these three cylindrical masses. Now this is the dorsal side and this is the ventral side. Now what do you mean by dorsal side? Dorsal means the posterior side, and ventral means the anterior side, the front side, right? And this is the back side. Okay, now there are two dorsolateral masses. Now what do you mean by dorsolateral? Lateral means sideways, right? So these are towards the posterior aspects and side by side. So these are lateral as well, right? So these are dorsolateral masses, and these are known as corpora cavernosa penis. Corpora means main bodies and cavernosa means hollow. So these two are actually identical cylindrical masses which are known as corpora cavernosa penis. Okay, and the third cylindrical mass which is smaller in size, it is mid-ventral. Okay, the location is mid-ventral. Mid-ventral. Ventral means in front and mid means in the middle. Okay, so this particular mass is known as corpus spongiosum penis. And this is the one through which the spongy urethra is passing, and it keeps it open during the ejaculation as the semen is passed through this urethra. Okay, so this is the position of the three cylindrical masses of the tissues which are present within the penis. So all these three cylindrical masses, it is covered by skin as well as the subcutaneous layer, as you can see in the details. It comprises of the skin, the outermost layer, and an underlying subcutaneous layer which consists of the erectile tissue. Now this erectile tissue, we'll come to the function of this erectile tissue a little later. So this erectile tissue, it comprises of a number of blood sinuses, that is vascular spaces, which are lined by the endothelial cells. Okay, sinuses, as you all must be aware of, under the CVS you all must have studied about the sinuses. These are the large blood spaces, vascular spaces, which are lined by the endothelial cells, and these are surrounded by the smooth muscles and the elastic connective tissue. Okay, now the distal end of the corpus spongiosum. Now what is corpus spongiosum penis? Yes, that's the mid-ventral cylindrical mass, right? This one, corpus spongiosum penis. Now the distal part, what do you mean by distal part? The part which is away from the origin. Okay, that is away from the origin. So distal part, it is slightly enlarged, as you can see, it is slightly enlarged, this portion, right? It is the part of the corpus spongiosum penis, right? So as it moves distally, it enlarges and it attains acorn shape, right? So this particular region which is expanded and acorn shape, and that is known as the glans penis, which is the next part. Okay, and the margin of this glans penis, it is known as corona. Okay. Now within these glans penis, as you can see that the spongy urethra is passing through the corpus spongiosum penis, right? So obviously it will continue through the glans penis, right? So within this glans penis, as you can see that the urethra slightly enlarges in this particular portion, and it forms a slit like opening over here towards the exterior, that is known as the external urethral orifice, okay, through which the urine and the semen, it will be ejaculated or excreted out of the body. Okay, now apart from this, covering the glans penis, there is a loosely fitting skin, and that is known as prepuce or foreskin. Okay, it's a loosely fitting skin. It can move backwards, and in certain cases it might have to be circumcised, that is in certain medical situations, okay, wherein there may be problem with the urethral orifice. Sometimes it is mislocated, so in such conditions it might have to be circumcised. Okay. Then coming to the third part of the penis, that is the root of the penis, okay, the one which is the attached portion, that is the proximal portion. Okay. It consists of the bulb of the penis. It comprises of two parts, the bulb of the penis and the crura of the penis. Crus is the singular term for crura. Okay, so these are the two parts, the bulb of the penis and the crura of the penis. Now let us see what is this bulb of penis. Okay, as you can see, this is the bulb of penis. Okay, so it is the expanded posterior continuation of the base of the corpus spongiosum penis. Okay, right? What is corpus spongiosum penis? Yes, it is the mid-ventral cylindrical mass, right, through which the urethra is passing. Correct. So the distal portion expands to form the glans penis, and the proximal portion, it expands to form the bulb of the penis, right, of the same part, corpus spongiosum penis. And the second part, that is the crura of the penis. Crus is the singular. Okay. Now why it is known like this? That's because it resembles a leg, right? If you can see, both these resemble like foot, right? So that's why these are known as crura of the penis. So these are the two separated and tapered portions of the corpora cavernosa penis. So these are the two dorsolateral cylindrical masses, right? These are the ones. Corpora cavernosa penis. So the proximal portions of these two cylindrical masses, they form separated and tapered portions known as crura of penis. Okay. Now the bulb of penis, it is attached to the inferior surface of the deep muscles of the perineum. As you can see over here, this is the deep muscle of perineum, right? So bulb is attached to this deep muscle of perineum, and it is enclosed by bulbospongiosus muscles. So this muscles also aid in the ejaculation. And each of these crus of the penis, they bend laterally. As you can see that they are bending laterally away from the bulb, correct? So they are bending laterally away from the bulb of penis, right? And these are attached to the ischial and inferior pubic rami, and these are surrounded by muscles called as ischiocavernosus muscles. And the weight of penis, it is supported by two ligaments, and these are fundiform ligament and the suspensory ligament. The fundiform ligament, it arises from the inferior part of linea alba, and suspensory ligament of the penis, it arises from the pubic symphysis. So these help in supporting the penis. Now upon the sexual stimulation, which may be either visual, tactile, auditory, olfactory, or it may be imagined. So whenever sexual stimulation takes place, the parasympathetic fibers from the sacral region of the spinal cord, these initiate and maintain the penile erection. Now erection means the enlargement and stiffening of the penis will take place. Now what makes the erection of the penis possible? That's because of the increase in the blood flow towards the penis. Okay, now here comes the role of the sinuses and the blood vessels. So these are differentially dilated. Even the erectile tissues play a very important role to initiate and maintain the erection, which is necessary for the sexual intercourse to take place. If the penile erection does not take place, sexual intercourse and the ejaculation of the semen into the female reproductive tract is not possible. Okay, and this may result in infertility in those individuals who cannot maintain the penile erection. Okay, so let us see how exactly this penile erection takes place. Okay, now upon the sexual stimulation, the parasympathetic fibers, they produce and release nitric oxide, NO. So we have seen the nitric oxide already earlier. It is a neurotransmitter, it is a hormone as well, right? It causes the relaxation of the smooth muscles, right? It acts in the blood vessel. It is synthesized and released in the blood vessels as well, right? In the endothelium. It is also known as endothelium dependent relaxing factor, EDRF. Okay, so this nitric oxide, which is locally synthesized by the blood vessels, in the walls of the blood vessels. Okay, so here in the walls of the arterioles, which are supplying to the erectile tissue, these smooth muscles will relax due to the release of this nitric oxide. So as a result of this, what will happen? The blood vessels will dilate. Okay, so the blood vessels which are supplying the penis, these will dilate, the arterioles. through which the blood is entering the penis. Okay, so as a result of increase in the amount of blood which is entering into the penis, it will press upon the veins. Okay, so it is even the nitric oxide, it is also causing the smooth muscles within the erectile tissue also to relax. So as a result of this, the widening of the blood sinuses will also take place. So both these arterioles, dilatation of arterioles and the increase in the blood flowing to the penis, as well as the increase in the size of the sinuses, it will increase the blood flowing towards the penis. Okay, as a result of which erection will take place. Why? Because this expansion of the blood sinuses, it compresses upon the veins. Now how the blood will flow out of the penis? It will be through the veins, right? So as the sinuses are getting dilated, expanded, the arterioles are getting dilated, blood flow will increase and it will press upon the veins. So the blood will not move out of the penis, that is the outflow of the blood, this is slowed down. As a result of this, the erection is maintained for quite some time. Okay, now sometimes there may be abnormal erection which may take place, and this condition is known as priapism. Okay, this refers to the persistent and usually painful erection of the penis, which is not as a result of sexual desire or the excitement. So this particular condition may last for several hours and it may be accompanied by pain and tenderness, which may be inconvenient to the individuals. Okay, so this may be due to the abnormalities of the blood vessels and the nerves, okay, which may be due to the medications. Maybe in certain individuals, if the erection, if they are unable to attain and maintain the erection, so in such individuals certain medications may be given. So due to the medications which may be given, there may be some abnormalities of the blood vessels and the nerves which may arise. Okay. So this could be one of the reason for the priapism. Apart from that, spinal cord disorder or leukemia, sickle cell disease or pelvic tumor may also be responsible for this condition. Okay. Now coming to the ejaculation. Ejectus means to throw out. Okay, so the semen, it is ejaculated out of the body during the sexual intercourse. Okay, so this particular process of powerful release of the semen from the urethra towards the exterior, it's actually a sympathetic reflex which is coordinated by the lumbar portion of the spinal cord. So ejaculation may take place during the sexual intercourse, okay, which is responsible for the ejaculation of the semen into the female reproductive tract. Okay, so as a part of this reflex, the smooth muscle sphincter at the base of the urinary bladder, this closes off. That's very important because urine must not flow through the urethra at the time of ejaculation, right? So this prevents the urine from being expelled during the ejaculation, and also it prevents the semen from entering into the urinary bladder. Okay. Now even before the ejaculation takes place, the peristaltic contraction within the duct system will begin, that is in the epididymis, ductus deferens, seminal vesicles, ejaculatory ducts and the prostate. Okay, so all of these, the peristaltic movements, it propels the semen towards the spongy urethra. Okay, so the semen which contains the sperm, it will reach the urethra. Okay, so this particular condition may result in emission, that is a discharge of small volume of semen even before ejaculation. Now this emission may take place even during sleep. Okay. So apart from the reflex which is involved in the ejaculation. There are musculature of the penis also which are involved in the ejaculation. That is the bulbospongiosus, ischiocavernosus, and the superficial transverse perineus muscles. These also aid in the ejaculation, as we have seen earlier. Now, once the sexual stimulation of the penis has ended, the arterioles which are supplying the erectile tissue, they will constrict. Okay. So also the smooth muscles within the erectile tissue, these will also contract. So as a result of this, what will happen? The blood flowing towards the penis, it will decrease, and also the sinuses will become smaller in size. So what will happen? Blood flow to the penis is decreased, and also it relieves the pressure on the veins. Okay, because the enlargement or the expansion of the sinuses, it presses upon the veins and it slows down the outflow of the blood from the penis, right? So because of the relief of the pressure upon the veins, it allows the blood to drain through these veins. So the blood will leave the penis and it will return to its flaccid state or the relaxed state. Okay, so this is to do with the semen and the penis. Okay, so this is the reference for my presentation. Thank you for watching.